Officialdom+Rebirth 90+ single female Lead+Poor Family+Political Stratagem+Approaching Reality+No Dogblood+No Brain+No Ambiguity+Farming Literature. Hao was killed in a previous life due to a report. After rebirth, utilizing one's prior knowledge and foresight, while striving to do a good job, one is committed to laying the groundwork for various relationships. He seized various opportunities, legally made money, and published articles that were in line with development trends. Hao, who performed excellently and had someone behind him, was quickly promoted. With a certain degree of power, Hao began to dig pits and bury mines against the forces and their protective umbrellas that persecuted him in his past life, and detonated the mines at the appropriate time. After the Great Revenge, Hao strictly followed the concept of being an official and getting rich, overcoming obstacles and creating brilliant political achievements in the officialdom. Chapter 1. Rebirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In July 2023, in Linhe County, Chuyang City, Hejiang Province, although it was already past 5 p.m., the scorching sun still baked the road. Due to the scorching heat and the fact that it is not yet rush hour, there are not many pedestrians and vehicles on the road. At the intersection, the green light came on, and the old man sitting in an electric wheelchair pressed the button. Start the wheelchair and follow the zebra crossing slowly towards the opposite direction. Suddenly, a small car speeding through the intersection suddenly changed direction and crashed straight into the wheelchair on the zebra crossing. With a loud bang, the wheelchair was knocked off, and the old man with white hair on his head was thrown out and landed heavily on the road. Blood gushed out from the old man's head, bright and eye-catching in the sunlight, which also made people tremble with fear. A scream of surprise came from the scene. Hao, who was riding a bicycle, suddenly felt dizzy and his eyes turned black. Hao quickly grabbed the brake, supported his feet on the ground, and closed his eyes. Just now, he instantly had memories of the next 33 years in his mind, which made him feel dizzy and flustered. After a full 3 minutes, Hao finally opened his eyes and looked around in confusion. On both sides of the spacious cement road in the east-west direction, behind sparse trees, are rows of brick and tile houses facing south. In front of a row of tiled houses on the north side of the road, there is a row of walls, and every few rooms, there is a courtyard door. That's right, this is the family courtyard of the county committee in the early 1990s. Looking down at his clothes, the Shanghai brand watch on his wrist, and the bicycle under his buttocks, Hao understood that it was the second day he returned to his hometown after graduating from college, at 5:22 p.m. on July 3, 1990. However, what happened to the scene in my memory when I was just hit and thrown into mid-air? Suddenly, Hao was startled, wondering if these memories were experiences from dreams or if he had been reborn. It's easy to verify if you're reborn. Because in his past life, what happened a few minutes later has been deeply engraved in Hao's mind. Hao continued to ride his bike and then turned into an alleyway south of the road. After reaching the third row, he turned east and stopped in front of the third courtyard. Stand up the car, lock it, remove the key, and gently knock on the courtyard door. The door is not locked, come in. A gentle voice came from the courtyard. The owner of this voice is exactly the person Hao is looking for, Yang Hui. Yang Hui has been Hao's classmate for many years since elementary school, and also the girl that Hao has always admired and started pursuing a year ago. Hao lightly pushed the gate and entered the courtyard, standing under the gate tower. This is a 5-room tiled house, with 2 side rooms on each side. Hao's home is located in a rural area on the outskirts of the county, only 4 or 5 miles away from here. The house at home is also a 5-room tiled house with 3 bright and 5 dark, and there are 6 side rooms on the east and west sides. So, in his past life, although Hao knew that Yang Hui's parents were both public officials and his mother was a farmer, he couldn't distinguish any difference in their family backgrounds from the bottom of his heart. This is not because Hao had little knowledge, but at that time he had not yet entered society and his thoughts were relatively simple. In addition, Linha, a national poverty-stricken county, had few buildings in the early 1990s, and the wealth gap between people was not yet clear. Looking at the beautiful girl standing in the courtyard, exuding a youthful aura, Su Hao's face instantly showed a smile and he raised his voice, asking, "Yang Hui, when did you come back?" The girl's face also showed a smile and answered softly, "I've been back for about 10 days. What about you?" "I got home at noon yesterday," said Su Hao. "Sit down," Yang Hui pointed to a chair under a big tree in the yard. After sitting down, Su Hao looked at Yang Hui and asked, "Yang Hui, which unit have you been assigned to? Is it County Number 1 Middle School?" Yang Hui University is studying English at Jinling Normal University. Yang Hui smiled and replied, "No, it's Shi Middle School." Su Hao's face showed surprise, and then he smiled and said, "Ah, good company. Congratulations to you." Yang Hui gently waved her hand and said, "It's average. What about you? Are you really coming back to work?" Su Hao nodded and said, "Yes, the archives have been sent back to the County Personnel Bureau. I heard they might work at the Industrial Bureau." Yang Hui looked regretful and said, "There is no industry in our county. There are only about 10 factories left. Except for Hongqing Distillery and Fertilizer Plant, which have good performance, the other few factories are about to close down." Su Hao nodded with a bitter expression on his face and said, "Yes, it's a unit that waits to die for nothing. There's nothing I can do, it's okay with my family. I can't get into a good unit. What a pity. You are the second in science in the county, and you went to the famous university, West University of Technology. You shouldn't go back to your hometown," Yang Hui said regretfully. "It's no pity." Su Hao shook his head, looked up at Yang Hui's eyes, and continued. "I told you in my letter that my brother was assigned to a big hospital in Daidu. Although I have a sister, as the remaining son, I should also go back to go home to take care of my parents. In addition, you should understand my heart. Only when I go back to go home can I hope to get together with the girl I like." Yang Hui's face turned slightly red, and she avoided Su Hao's scorching gaze. She lowered her head and whispered, "So, that, Su Hao. I will also live in the city when I work in the future, and rarely return to Linha." Su Hao's face was slightly ugly. He could hear that the girl across from him was rejecting him. This scene is the same as in the previous life. Although in his memory, he already knew that he and Yang Hui had not come together in the end, at this moment, he still felt a slight pain in his heart. After all, Yang Hui is the girl he has secretly liked in his heart since the second year of junior high. She has a beautiful appearance, a tall figure, a gentle personality, but her grades are particularly good. During her 5 years in elementary school and 3 years in junior high school, Yang Hui consistently ranked among the top 3 in her class. As for Su Hao, he basically wanders around the top 10. If it weren't for Su Hao's continuous efforts from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. in his first year of high school, and his leap to second place in the grade, Yang Hui's grades would still surpass Su Hao's. Of course, Su Hao's own image is also good, with a height of 1.81 meters, a handsome appearance, a strong body, and fair skin. Otherwise, Su Hao wouldn't dare to start confessing to Yang Hui in a letter after entering his 3rd year of college. Yang Hui also promised in the letter that she could read everywhere. Given that in this era, both boys and girls in small county towns were inherently shy. So although the two met many times during the winter and summer vacations, Su Hao only held hands with Yang Hui once. Just a month before graduation, Yang Hui wrote a letter saying that since she didn't know when she would be returning home, there was no need for further communication between the two parties. Su Hao didn't expect that in just over 40 days, when he saw Yang Hui again, he heard a faint refusal. After pondering for a while, Su Hao looked solemnly at Yang Hui's beautiful face and asked in a tone of unwillingness, "Yang Hui, are you saying that we can only have an ordinary classmate relationship in the future?" Chapter 2. Gentle Refusal. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Yes, you're right. A middle-aged woman's voice suddenly came from the room. Su Hao looked in the direction of the sound and saw a woman in her 40s lift the door curtain and walk out of the main room. Su Hao quickly stood up and shouted with a smile, "Aunt Lin." The middle-aged woman remained expressionless and nodded slightly. She sat down in the nearby chair and said, "Su Hao, to be honest, your personal conditions are still very good. There must be many good girls who will like you, but you two are not suitable. First of all, you two are still young. Hui is 21 years old this year, and you seem to be only 20 years old. As leaders, we naturally need to respond to the national call for late marriage and childbirth. Hui should not get married until she is 20.4 or 5 years old. The fact is indeed so. Linha County is relatively remote and backward, and there are also many cases of getting married and having children at the age of 18 or 19 in rural areas. However, for those who have formal employment, they usually get married after the age of 20.3 or 4. Young Huey's father was transferred to the city a few years ago, but I am still in the county, so we still live here. After Yang Hui works in the city, she will naturally stay in the city and rarely return to Linha. Even if you continue to socialize, you will only see each other once or twice a month. There will be 4 or 5 years left until you get married at the age of 20.4 or 5. This time is very long, and even if you two are not in the same place, there may be many changes in between. This situation should be difficult for couples to accept. Even if you get married and start a family in the future, the separation between the two places is not conducive to family stability. The scene in front of us, including what Yang Hui's mother said, is exactly the same as what we remember. Su Hao can be certain that he has been reborn. He is truly a cultured leader, and his refusal to speak is very tactful and does not harm his self-esteem, but his reasons are sufficient and his tone is unquestionable. In fact, Linha County is not far from Chiuyang City, only 70.80 miles away. More than a decade later, it was just a matter of stepping on the accelerator. When private cars have become a necessity for many families, and with the widening and leveling of roads to the city, many people in the county live in the city, work in the county town, and drive back and forth every day has become the norm. But in this era, taking a shuttle bus to the city is time-consuming and inconvenient. In his past life, upon hearing these words, Su Hao was deeply saddened and quickly fled with just a polite, "Auntie, Ang Hui, sorry for bothering you." At that time, Su Hao was not aware of the true situation of Yang Hui's family. It wasn't until a month later, after inquiring from various sources, that Su Hao realized that Yang Hui's refusal was only an excuse for being far away, and the real reason was the opposition of her mother Lin Lin. The reason is that it's not right for the door to be closed. After all, with the relationship between Yang Hui's parents, helping Su Hao transfer jobs is not a big deal. Su Hao's father was only the principal of a suburban high school, a stock-level cadre, Su Hao's mother, and just a farmer. And Yang Hui's mother, Lin Lin, is the executive vice minister of the county organization department. Yang Hui's father, Yang Chunhui, is even more impressive. 5 years ago, he was transferred from the county normal school to Chiuyang Normal College in the city. In the spring of this year, he was appointed as the president and a department-level cadre. Lin Lin comes from a wealthy family in the provincial capital. When he graduated from college, he did not agree to the marriage arranged by his family. Despite his family's opposition, he followed his handsome boyfriend to his hometown, Linha County, which was poor and backward. For this reason, Lin Lin's father was very angry and ordered no one in the Lin family to take care of Lin Lin. Yang Chunhui and Lin Lin, as college students, naturally have outstanding abilities. Coupled with the bonus points of high education, they have relied on their personal abilities to step up to their current positions. Although she has a deep relationship with her husband, Lin Lin, who has gone through hardships since joining the workforce, actually has some regrets in her heart for following her boyfriend to Linha. Therefore, for the marriage of her child, she and her father used to hold the same view, which was that they must match each other. Yang Hui, in fact, is very interested in Su Hao. Su Hao has a handsome appearance and is a talented person. He still attended a prestigious university. Based solely on personal conditions, Su Hao is definitely a high-quality male. But Yang Hui, who has been an obedient girl since childhood, cannot resist her mother's opinion. After all, her mother loves Yang Hui very much and even uses her own example to present facts and reason with her daughter. With memories from his past life, Su Hao had already known about this ending. The main reason why he still insists on walking into Yang Hui's house is that he needs to determine whether the memories in his mind are a dream or experiences before his rebirth. Since he was certain that he had been reborn, Su Hao remained indifferent to everything in front of him after graduating from college 33 years ago. After Lin finished speaking, Su Hao said solemnly, "Auntie, Yang Hui, I understand what you mean. From now on, Yang Hui and I will only have an ordinary classmate relationship, and I will not disturb you again." Su Hao immediately stood up, gave Yang Hui a faint smile, and said, "Yang Hui, I apologize for disturbing you before. Then I'll say goodbye." With that, Su Hao turned around and walked towards the courtyard door. Lin looked at her daughter's eyes and kept staring at Su Hao's back until Su Hao walked out of the courtyard for a while. However, her daughter's gaze did not retract. Lin sighed and said, "Ah, Hui, although Su Hao's personal conditions are indeed very good, with his background, he can at most become a department-level director in this life. Moreover, this is a lucky situation. You should know that at the age of 46, when your father was promoted to the level of a department head without government power, he just barely caught the eye of the Lin family. Don't worry, in the future, his parents will introduce you to a better talent." Yang Hui remained silent and stood up to enter her own room in the side room. Su Hao pushed the car slowly towards the entrance of the courtyard. In his past life, Su Hao, who had left, still had a bit of resentment in his heart. This resentment is not towards Yang Hui's mother, but towards her. It is natural for a mother to hope that her precious daughter can find a better family and live a better life. But as a party involved, Yang Hui has no independent opinions or even a little perseverance, which is truly unacceptable. What era is it now? Isn't the country always calling for freedom in love, marriage, and autonomy? Not at all like highly educated college students. In his past life, the resentment in Su Hao's heart lasted for 2 to 3 years before it was forgotten in his heart. This is also an important reason why Su Hao got married very late in his previous life. Upon returning from his rebirth, Su Hao naturally had no resentment in his heart, only a slight discomfort. After all, this is his first time liking the opposite sex of the same age, or the kind he has liked for so many years. Chapter 3. Starting to lay relationships. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When he walked out of the door of the county party committee's family courtyard, Su Hao had completely put aside the matter of being politely rejected, with a slight smile on his lips. Because his heart was filled with uncontrollable ecstasy. Reborn, everything can be restarted. Moreover, it carries memories of over 30 years from now. In other words, I am a cheater, a prophet who can predict the next 30 years. If you still can't do well in this life, why not find a piece of tofu and crash it to death? Su Hao bought a pack of Tuanjia cigarettes and a box of matches for 2 yuan from the small shop outside the door, lit one, and held it in his mouth. With a smile on his lips and a relaxed mood, he rode his bike and leisurely rushed home. In his past life, Su Hao did not have a smoking habit, but he didn't smoke a single cigarette. When the car arrived at the intersection in front of a small bridge, Su Hao's face became cold. Getting off the car, Su Hao stared at the ground and kept smoking. In my past life, I was killed at this intersection after handing over the reporting materials to the provincial and municipal crackdown work groups. Moreover, 10 years before his death, at this intersection, as the deputy director of the Environmental Protection Bureau, he was hit with a disability and retired from home in a wheelchair for 10 years. Su Hao is very clear about who the mastermind behind the scenes is. In my past life, I couldn't deal with them myself, but now that I am reborn, these people will inevitably face the anger of revenge. Of course, it's not the right time yet. After all, those people have not yet emerged, and some have not even arrived at Linha. Moreover, my own strength is still very weak now. Currently, what I need to do is to grow as quickly as possible and become strong and powerful. In the future, when facing the group of people who persecuted me in the first place, I can easily catch them all. Moreover, if the enemy is in the light and oneself is in the dark, it is naturally the most ideal to inflict a devastating blow on those people without exposing oneself. In death bad people, the key is that these bad people are still their own enemies, I like them. At present, what one should think about is how to take the next path. Only by planning one's own future path well and firmly following it, can one not waste this opportunity to start over. Since I have chosen to return to my hometown and my major is considered abandoned, the path I will take in the future will be an official career. With years of career experience in previous lives, it is now necessary to make a good plan. The first thing to consider in front of you is to establish your own relationship. To put it simply, we need to find a backup. In the Chinese officialdom, the bowl system is the dominant mechanism. If a leader appreciates you, even if you are incompetent, you can still be promoted. Dad always said he had nothing to do with him, and the fact seems to be the same. At my father's age, many people have not even graduated from elementary school, but have become township chiefs, even county, mayor, and provincial governor. And the father, who graduated from a regular preschool teacher, was only in his 50s when he became the principal of a township high school and a stock-level cadre in a career organization. In fact, it's not that it's okay with my dad. He has always been straightforward throughout his life, never seeking help or moving around, so he always thinks it's okay. To put it bluntly, it's just that Dad's emotional intelligence is too low. In his past life, Su Hao was actually much smoother in his interpersonal skills than his father. But after returning to my hometown, I don't really strive for self-improvement, and basically have a mentality of lying flat and lying down. Reading books, playing guitar, playing chess, fishing, swimming, but also living a leisurely life. It wasn't until later that Su Hao saw his classmates all getting promoted that he gained some motivation and began to work a little harder. However, at that time, Su Hao was already nearly 30 years old and missed the best age to grow up in the officialdom. In this small county with a population of 1 million, as long as the locals are born and raised, after the lives of several generations, it can be said that relatives are even relatives. Moreover, there are various relationships such as comrades in arms, classmates, colleagues, teachers and students, neighbors, fellow villagers, and fellow villagers. It can be said that there is me among you, and he among me. So, basically it can be said that there is a certain relationship between them. But if you want to have truly useful relationships, you need to dig them out with your heart and do your best to maintain them. People who originally had no connections can gradually become friends through means such as treating guests and giving gifts. Even using common interests to establish small circles. It can be said that the officialdom of small county towns is a large network composed of various relationships, with almost all officials having varying degrees of connection. As long as there is a slight connection, the entire network vibrates. So, in the local political arena, there is a saying about the in-laws courtyard. As a pure local, if you think you have no connections, it's just that you haven't found a way to unlock this network of relationships. Su Hao, who has been a person for 2 generations, naturally learns from his past experiences and focuses on weaving his own network of relationships. To discover and maintain relationships, it is necessary to treat guests and give gifts. This requires money. In this era, everyone's income is very low, but people's thinking has been relaxed and gift-giving has become a trend. If there is no money to give gifts, even close relatives may not necessarily help. It's not just about relatives being snobbish, but because they help you with activities, either they owe you favors or they also need to spend money. My older sister is already married, and my older brother is also working in the imperial capital. My father and I earn a salary, and we also have 3 acres of land to raise pigs, sheep, chickens, ducks, and geese. Our family's situation in the local area is also considered average. But when it comes to money, Su Hao is very clear that his family really doesn't have it yet. The little savings at home were all used up by the 2 brothers when they went to school, so it would be great if they didn't cheat. Although the cost of going to college is relatively low at this time, my father's salary is only about 160 yuan, which is not enough. How can I make money? Having understood the social development trends for the next 20 years, it is definitely not difficult for oneself to make money. After taking a nap, Su Hao greeted his mother, picked up 2 bottles of Hongqing Teku produced by Hongqing Distillery in the county, and rode his bicycle out of the house. Half an hour later, Su Hao arrived at Su Laozhuang. Su Hao came here to find his classmate Su Hua'an. Su Hua'an, Su Huaping's younger brother, was a classmate of Su Hao from elementary school to high school, with at least 5 or 6 years in the same class. Although Su Hua'an's grades are slightly worse than Su Hao's, they are also very good. I just performed poorly during the college entrance examination and could only attend a junior college. Su Hua'an was unwilling and repeated his studies for a year before being admitted to the best normal university in the province the following year. The excellent relationship between Su Hao and Su Hua'an is due to various factors. Su Hua'an's older sister and Su Hao's older sister are high school classmates. The 2 girls who originally had decent grades were both unable to get into college due to family constraints. Su Hao vividly remembers that when his sister was in her 2nd year of high school, her mother fell ill and her sister didn't go to school seriously for a whole semester. Su Hua'an's brother Su Huaping and his own big brother Su Xing have been classmates for many years. Su Huaping failed to be admitted to university. After graduation, he first worked as a private teacher and later became a small clerk in a township through recruitment. Su Hua'an's father and Su Hao's father have also been colleagues for many years. However, Su Hua'an's father is a private teacher who just became a regular 7 or 8 years ago. Chapter 4. Old Classmate Su Hua'an. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In order for Uncle Su to become a regular employee, Su Hao's father put in a lot of effort in the middle. Although the 2 families are not relatives, they are very close and have an excellent relationship. In his past life, Su Huaping was appreciated by the superiors and later became the deputy mayor. Su Hao's later promotion was greatly aided by Su Huaping. In his past life, just the 2nd year after Su Hao graduated, it happened to be the catastrophic flood of the Honghe River in 1991. During this period, Su Huaping was not afraid of difficulties or life and death in flood control and emergency rescue, and persisted on the embankment for several consecutive days, making contributions and gaining recognition. After the flood, Su Huaping was exceptionally promoted to the position of deputy mayor of Hongqiu Town and a member of the town party committee. Su Hao came to ask Su Huaping to take him to work in the Hongqiu Town where he is located. Huan, are you at home? Su Hao stood in front of the courtyard door and shouted. Mouse, when did you come back? I was planning to come to your house tomorrow to ask my aunt. Hua'an exclaimed and rushed out of the room, smiling. After setting up his bicycle, Su Hao hugged Hua'an and slapped him hard on the back twice. He laughed and shouted, I miss you so much. When did you take a break? At this moment, Su Hao saw 2 women walking out of the room and quickly called out, Auntie, big sister. Hao is here, sit down quickly, Auntie will cut melons for you, Hua'an's mother greeted with a smile. Auntie, don't bother, I just want Hua'an to come and see you guys. Su Hao said, taking the cloth bag from the handlebar and handing it over, continuing, it's been a long time since we last came. I brought 2 bottles of bad wine for Uncle. Oh, you child, why are you still carrying things? Your uncle will definitely scold me if he knows. You can bring it back later and give it to Principal Su to drink. Hua'an's mother waved her hands repeatedly. After all, Su Hao's father is the principal of a rural high school, while Hua'an's father is just a teacher at a village primary school. Su Hao's family is clearly in a high position, so how dare Hua'an's mother accept the gift brought by Su Hao? Su Hao forcefully pushed the cloth bag into Hua'an's mother's hand and said sincerely, "Auntie, I used to be at school, so I didn't bring anything with me when I came to your place. I just ate and drank for free. Now that I'm working, it's appropriate to bring some wine for my uncle. Besides, Hua'an knows that my uncle is in the distillery, and this wine doesn't cost any money. Take it. Hey, you child." Hua'an's mother was also a rural woman who couldn't read big characters and didn't know what to say for a moment. Su Hao pulled Hua'an towards the shade of a nearby tree and sat on a small stool. At this moment, Hua'yun, the elder sister of Hua'an, had already taken out a large watermelon from the room and placed it on a small square table under the shade of a tree, cutting it open. "Xiaohao, do you want to taste this watermelon? I planted it myself," Sister Hua'an greeted with a smile. "Okay." Su Hao didn't hesitate and picked up a tooth of watermelon to take a bite. "Big sister, your watermelon is really good. It has sand but still has enough moisture, it's very sweet." Su Hao thumbed up and smiled, praising it. Hua'yun narrowed his eyes with a smile and said, "If it's delicious, eat more." After Su Hao finished eating 2 teeth of watermelon, Hua'an asked, "Mouse, which unit did you get assigned to?" Su Hao let out a long sigh and said, "Which other unit can it be? Industrial Bureau, broken unit." Hua'an sighed and said, "Oh, that's right. Where does the industry come from in this dilapidated county?" Machinery Factory 1 and 2, Rubber Factory, Hemp Textile Factory, County Liquor Factory, and Artificial Board Factory have all gone bankrupt. The remaining fertilizer factories, sand mining factories, and oven liquor factories have good benefits, but they are all directly under the county government and cannot be managed by the Industrial Bureau. "Yeah, so I want to go down to the town," Su Hao sighed. "Oh, no, you don't. Do you want to go to the countryside?" No one is willing to go to the countryside. Everyone wants to squeeze into the county town by any means possible. "Besides, Uncle won't agree," Hua'an exclaimed. "Yeah, I haven't told my dad yet. He probably won't agree, but I can convince him," Su Hao nodded. "Mouse, it's difficult to transfer back to the county town from the countryside. I don't know how many people to find and how much money to spend. It's easy to want to go to the countryside. The key is to consider it yourself and persuade Uncle." Hua'an stared at Su Hao and said. Su Hao smiled and said, "I've made up my mind. As for my dad, it's okay. When I went back to my hometown, he didn't agree either. I still came back." "Huh, Mouse, I admire you the most for having your own opinions and daring to argue with Uncle." Hua'an laughed heartily. "Huh, yes, air busy, xing air b, 4 times, awkwardly, that's me." Su Hao also laughed heartily. "Which township do you want to go to?" Hua'an asked after washing his face in the basin. Su Hao no longer ate melons and got up to wash his face. "Mouse, eat more, there's still more than half left," Hua'an greeted. Su Hao quickly waved his hand and said, "I can't eat anymore. Give it to my aunt and the others." After washing his face, Su Hao sat down again, and at this moment, Hua'an also brought the remaining watermelons into the room. Su Hao looked at Hua'an and said, "Isn't our big brother in the town? I think he has someone to take care of him." Hua'an smiled and said, "If you had gone to Hongqiu town before, my older brother wouldn't have been able to take care of you at work. After all, he was just an ordinary clerk at that time." Su Hao widened his eyes and asked in confusion, "Did Big Brother get promoted?" Hua'an nodded with a smile and said, someone sent a message the day before yesterday saying that my elder brother was recently promoted to the position of deputy director and deputy stock grade of the town agricultural economy station. In many townships in Linha County, they are not called agricultural economic stations, but rather agricultural offices. Therefore, the title of their leaders is commonly referred to as director rather than station chief in Linha County. Su Hao slapped his thigh and laughed loudly, shouting, that's great. Our big brother Gao Sheng, I have a backup there. Can you give me a detailed account of the situation in Hongqiu town? After chatting for a while, Su Hao stood up and said goodbye. The Hua'an family repeatedly begged to stay at home for dinner, but Su Hao declined. He needed to calm down and think about something. Before getting on the car, Hua'an said, Mouse, when big brother comes back, I'll tell him about what you think of in Hongqiu, and you don't have to worry about it. Leaving Qiansu village, under the scorching sun, Su Hao pushed his bicycle and walked slowly under the shade of trees. In his past life, compared to Su Huaping, who could only work as a private teacher after graduating from high school, Su Huaping, as a graduate of a prestigious university, did not perform well due to his poor family background and lack of strong connections. But the main reason is that after returning to my hometown, I worked hard in the industrial bureau, relaxed myself, and lacked a positive and proactive spirit and action subjectively. Not only did they not explore more relationships, but they also did not make good use of the various existing relationships. Isn't Su Huaping's family even more difficult? The family relationship is not as good as his own, and besides, he didn't even get into college. Before his death, he was promoted to vice mayor. My own conditions can be said to completely crush Su Huaping, but when I was hit and disabled, I became the deputy director of the county's Environmental Protection Bureau. Even this deputy director, Su Huaping, who had already become the county magistrate of the neighboring county at the time, put in a lot of effort to become him. Chapter 5. The cousin of the next county magistrate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Su Hao was not able to be promoted to the county level in his previous life, there must have been many shortcomings in his understanding of the officialdom. However, he is no longer a political novice and has summarized his own set of theories. Su Hao believes that in order to move forward quickly on the official road, one must remember the 4 halves and 2 excellences. The 4 halves refer to having aspirations, people, talents, and achievements. Having ambition, from a young age, means having a firm determination to work in politics for a lifetime. In general, it means a firm determination to serve the people. According to our ancestors, it means having faith. In a complex and lengthy political career, every official will be subject to various temptations, pressures, and even crises. Only by adhering to this original intention can you avoid being corroded or defeated. Just like those party members before the founding of the country, they would rather die than regret or betray. The belief in serving the people is simple to say, but it is difficult to truly achieve it. Su Hao is well aware that with the rapid development of the economy in the future, officials will face too many temptations. Countless officials failed to adhere to the bottom line and their original intentions, and ultimately fell behind in subsequent anti-corruption actions. Su Hao believes that as long as he can firmly believe in serving the people, not be greedy or defeated by money and beauty, and with his abilities and education, coupled with the forward-looking insights and experience brought by his past life, as long as he is not unlucky, he can eventually reach a certain high position. In the past life, with so many red second and red third generations, how many people were able to climb to positions higher than the rank of minister? Don't they have talent? By no means, almost 90% or more of people graduated from C9. Moreover, their knowledge, connections, and so on are all at the top of this society. The fundamental reason is that they lack the mindset of enduring hardship and the spirit of serving the people, and are more inclined towards personal enjoyment. Some people need to establish their own network relationships. This kind of network first comes from above and can be appreciated by superiors. Secondly, there are also levels and below. The principle of one hero helping 3 others is understood by everyone. To achieve something, the support of the people below is indispensable. Having talent is naturally talent. This talent not only comes from professional knowledge learned from books, but also includes your educational background, work and social experience, social skills, and career strategies. Even your speech, behavior, and appearance are part of it. Being successful naturally refers to the achievements made. This achievement not only includes practical achievements in work, but also includes the articles you have published. Achievements are like products, articles are like advertisements. Not only do we need to produce good products, but we also need to shout everywhere and everyone knows. The 2 wonders are to never have any problems with money and color. These are 2 high voltage lines, and once touched, something will happen sooner or later. Of course, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and the first thing to do now is to find the easiest place to achieve results. Hongqiu Town is one of the easiest places to achieve results. In 1 year, there will be a major flood in the Honghe River. Su Huaping, the elder brother in his past life, was exceptionally promoted due to his outstanding performance in flood control and rescue. Honghe River is a large river that spans 3 provinces. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, there was an average of 1 major flood every 4 years. When a major flood occurs, in order to protect the important cities downstream of the Honghe River, the Wenjiaba located in Hongqiu Town will be opened, releasing river water into the flood storage area. The flood storage area of Honghe River is very large, with a length of over 50 kilometers from east to west and a maximum width of 2 kilometers from north to south, spanning 2 counties in Quyang City. Most of them are located within the territory of Linhe County. There are 3 townships in Linhe County located within the flood storage area. From west to east are Hongqiu Town, Fangqiao Town, and Yuji Town. The boundary line between the upper and middle reaches of the Honghe River, Wenjiaba, is located in Hongqiu Town. The reason why Su Hao chose to go to Hongqiu Town instead of the other 2 towns is mainly because of Wenjiaba. Wenjiaba is well known in the National Water Conservancy Department and has been inspected by several leaders. As for provincial and municipal leaders, there have been more visits. As long as you perform well after the flood season, you will definitely be able to enter the vision of your superiors. In his past life, Su Huaping began to rise steadily after the flood season. Unfortunately, Su Huaping's first degree was too low, only graduating from high school. In addition, his second degree is only a symbolic undergraduate degree from a party school, rather than a true undergraduate degree from a social university. This is Su Huaping's hard injury. Otherwise, Su Huaping could at least get to the main hall level. Another reason for going to work in Hongqiu Town is that Su Huaping has been there for several years. In fact, it is easy for Su Hao to be demoted to any township. As long as he talks to the personnel bureau, he will definitely not encounter any obstacles. Letting Su Huaping come forward means asking Su Huaping to take care of him. At the same time, it also gave Su Huaping face in Hongqiu Town. Bringing a college student to a remote and backward town is also a credit. After arriving in Hongqiu Town, the first thing to do is to write an application to join the Communist Party. When I was in school, it was very difficult to join the Communist Party. In my major, there are about 100 students in the same grade, with a total of 3 party members, and only 1 in each class. But after entering the workforce, it is relatively much easier to join the party. As long as there are enough seats, the pass rate can basically reach 30.4%. In my past life, I only decided to progress in my career after working for 4 or 5 years, and only then did I realize joining the Communist Party, which slowed down my progress. However, if you want to make rapid progress in your career, these plans are far from enough. In his past life, a year later, a new county magistrate arrived. This person's name is Wang Huaqing and he is from the neighboring Heqing County. Almost no one in the entire county knew that teacher Miao Yunxia, who was also with her father at the suburban high school, was actually Wang Huaqing's cousin. It wasn't until 2 months after Wang Huaqing took office and Miao Yunxia was promoted to the position of vice principal of County No. 1 Primary School, that people gradually realized that Miao Yunxia and Wang County Magistrate were relatives. Because Miao Yunxia is just an ordinary teacher, not even a middle-level teacher, this appointment has caused a lot of controversy in the officialdom. Miao Yunxia's husband, Hua Chonglin, was currently only the deputy director of the radiology department at the county hospital. But 2 months after the new county mayor took office, he became the head of surgery. In March of the following year, he will be appointed as the deputy director of the county hospital. 2 years later, when Wang Huaqing became the county party secretary, teacher Miao Yunxia became the principal of County No. 1 Primary School, and Hua Chonglin was also promoted to the position of principal of County Health School. Because Miao Yunxia had lived in a suburban high school for 7 or 8 years, the relationship between the two families was generally good. Su Hao and they are both familiar. Su Hao's next step is to try to establish a closer relationship with teacher Miao's family, so that he can receive teacher Miao's help after his probation period next year. Chapter 6. Persuading Dad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In my past life, I had also approached Miao Yunxia, hoping that she could help me speak up in front of Wang Huaqing, who was already the county party secretary. Although teacher Miao promised well, there was no result. Su Hao speculated that in her past life, it was because of teacher Miao's appointment that it had a negative impact on the county town, and she should have harbored resentment towards her father as a result. After all, I taught at a suburban high school for 15 or 16 years and didn't even get into the middle class. If teacher Miao is already in the middle level and is promoted to the vice principal of County No. 1 Primary School, there will be basically no problems. It seems that we need to do the ideological work of being a father. When teacher Miao was promoted by the principal without even realizing that his cousin was going to become the county magistrate of Linhe County, he naturally felt grateful in his heart. Back home, Dad is at home. Because the college entrance examination will be held in 2 days, only the suburban high school in junior high school is currently on vacation. Dad, I want to tell you something. Su Hao put up his car and walked to the shade of a tree, smiling at his father. Principal Su Xinmin, who was serious about speaking and laughing, let out a nod. As a person of 2 generations, Su Hao, who had a clear understanding of his father's personality and temperament, naturally knew that there was still a lot of resentment in his father's heart towards his decision to return to his hometown without authorization. In fact, this matter was discussed between Su Hao and his elder brother Su Xing, but he didn't tell his father because he knew he wouldn't agree. Dad, since I have already come back, don't be angry. Although you and my mother are still in good health, what will happen in 10 or 20 years? Someone will eventually take care of you too at home. Since my eldest brother is already working in Kyoto, if I don't go home, will my sister come to take care of you in the future? She also has her own home and her parents-in-law. Besides, we will eventually need a man to support our family. Su Hao smiled calmly and patiently. After pondering for a while, Principal Su let out a groan, still feeling conflicted, and said, "The key is that our county is too poor, even with unpaid wages. What do we rely on to support our family? Besides, if you are assigned to the Industrial Bureau, does our county have industry? Is it possible that you, a top student of the prestigious Western Polytechnic University, just fools around and waits to die for a lifetime?" Su Hao refilled his father's water and continued to advise, "Dad, since I can get into a key university, I can also make a name for myself after starting work. Even those without diplomas can become county mayors. Why can't I, Dad? You can rest assured that my son will definitely boost your morale. Why can those uneducated people go up? It's not like we only focus on relationships in this poor place, not on academic qualifications. Our family doesn't have much to do, and I can't help you, it's difficult," Principal Su said with frustration. Su Hao certainly knows his father well. It can be said that Principal Su has both abilities and diplomas, but his personality is too straightforward and he never gets involved. Even if helping others, it is only based on the level of human relationships and principles. Moreover, even if he needs the help of those he has helped before, he only says hello and never gives gifts. Afterwards, I won't ask again. If that person didn't help, Dad would just curse at that person at home and never contact them again. Simply put, Lao Tzu's emotional intelligence is too low. Therefore, Lao Tzu never taught his 3 children how to behave in society. Although Su Hao inherited some of his father's personality from his past life, he still had a high emotional intelligence. However, after returning to his hometown, he basically had a lying flat attitude and worked for 10 years with almost no progress. If it weren't for some slight changes later on, coupled with his relatively strong educational background, and in the context of the country's emphasis on knowledge-based, professional, and youthful cadres, he would only be able to become a deputy director of the Environmental Protection Bureau at the deputy department level in his 40s. Of course, Su Hao won't point out his father's shortcomings, otherwise wouldn't his emotional intelligence be lower than his father's? Dad, it's not that our family doesn't have any problem. After all, since our grandparents, there have been many relatives and friends. It's just that our family used to be poor, and you were busy with work and needed to farm when you got home, so you didn't have time or money to leave. It's okay. I'm coming back now. The old relationship, I'll leave. If there's anything I don't understand, I'll go back home and ask you. With you controlling the overall direction, I can definitely bring these relationships to life. Su Hao still looked at his father with a smile and admiration on his face. Under his son's rainbow farts, Lao Tzu's face softened a lot and he nodded casually, saying, "Okay, I'm too straightforward and don't want to have relationships. I'll rely on you in the future." Su Hao smiled and said, "Just now I went to play with Su Hua'an and asked Su Huaping to help with something." "Huaping, isn't he a clerk in Hongqiu town? His family doesn't matter much, what else can he do to help?" Principal Su's tone was slightly disdainful. In the eyes of his father, Su Changhe is not as good as himself, not even his own child. Su Changhe is not as good as his own son. He didn't get into college when he was older, but his own older brother got into a medical school and was even assigned to a large hospital in the imperial capital. Su Changhe's second son went back to school for a year before attending an ordinary university, and my second son, one of the top 3 in the county, was admitted to a well-known university. This gap is not as large as usual. So, when facing Su Changhe, Principal Su should not have too much sense of superiority. I just returned from my home in Hua'an. Yesterday, Huaping was exceptionally promoted to the position of Deputy Director of Hongqiu Town Agricultural Management Office, Deputy Stock Level. Upon hearing his son's words, Principal Su's face slightly changed and looked a bit ugly. After all, he, who graduated from a regular preschool teacher, will only receive associate-level treatment and full-rank practical work when he is in his 50s. And Huaping, without even a diploma, became a stock grade after enduring 6 or 7 years. Dad has actually seen many of this phenomenon. After all, among peers, many people without even education hold higher positions than him. But this happened to a younger generation, who was also the son of Su Changhe, and this kind of blow was quite significant. "Dad, I want to work in Hongqiu town and get promoted quickly below," said Su Hao. "You college student, even if you go back to your hometown, I feel ashamed to have to go down to the town." Principal Su suddenly scolded coldly. "Dad, since I'm back, I need to think about how to quickly get promoted with a high education. Think about it. Huaping only has a high school degree and can be promoted to the stock level in 6 or 7 years. What about me? As long as I can work hard, it shouldn't be a big problem to be promoted to the stock level in 3 or 4 years. If I became the deputy town mayor or deputy director in 7 or 8 years, it shouldn't be a problem." Su Hao patiently explained to his father. After a full 10 minutes, Principal Su said in a lackluster tone, "We are old and outdated. You are also old and have received higher education, so you consider things comprehensively. In the future, As long as you remain good and do not violate the law, you will basically make your own decisions, and Dad will generally not stop you. Chapter 7. Promotion of Teacher Miao. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Su Hao knew that his father's thoughts could not be changed solely by his words. But because as an intellectual, he has always been relatively open-minded. Especially after my older brother went to college, my dad would communicate with him about many family matters. Some of these things have different opinions between Dad and Big Brother, but many of them are handled according to Big Brother's opinion. Su Hao gave a thumbs up and smiled, saying, "Dad is Dad, and my heart is broad. Don't worry, I still need to discuss big things with you. By the way, Dad, is Aunt Miao Yunxia still at this school?" Principal Su nodded and let out a nod. "Dad, you need to promote Aunt Miao to become a middle-level person," Su Hao said softly. Principal Su looked at his son and asked, "Is there any explanation?" "I heard that Uncle Gua has a great college classmate. If we get closer to Uncle Gua's family, maybe we can have Uncle Gua's classmate take care of him in the future," Su Hao replied seriously. Uncle Gua, also known as Miao Yunxia's husband, is a doctor at the county hospital. President Su looked at his little son and said with a smile, "Actually, I know the man you mentioned. Not long ago, the man went back to his hometown to see Uncle Gua. Uncle Gua also asked me to accompany him." Su Hao smiled and said, "Dad, Big Brother has no connection in the imperial capital. We finally have a fellow villager who can establish a relationship and is an authority in the medical field. Why don't we think of a way? If we want Uncle Gua to contribute, we can only start with Aunt Miao for the time being." Principal Su nodded and said, "You're right. In the past, I mainly saw that Teacher Miao wasn't very ambitious, so I didn't promote her. As long as she didn't have classes, she would run home. Don't worry about this, Dad will handle it tomorrow." In this era, although there was no such thing as a clock-in and shift system, it was ultimately a legitimate unit, and it was not allowed to leave the unit without reason. However, in this era of remote small areas, the management of various units is very relaxed. It is a common phenomenon to leave the unit without even calling out, as long as there is nothing on hand. Even many cadres only work half a day. Before lunch, call out to friends. After a meal of eating and drinking, sleeping, playing cards, fishing. Many female teachers in schools usually don't come to school as long as they don't have classes in the morning. "If there are no classes in the afternoon, I will not return to school after returning home from work in the morning." It's not surprising that my father didn't promote Teacher Miao. Uncle Gua's classmate Wang Yulin and Su Hao have a deep impression. Because this will be the real big shot in the medical industry. In his past life, Wang Yulin's later achievements were remarkable. President of Tongha Medical University, Academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Vice President of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and alternate member of ZY. At this time, the future great scientist had only obtained a PhD for less than 5 years. Guo Chonglin and Wang Yulin have been classmates for many years from elementary school to university, and their relationship is excellent. Actually, Big Brother and they are also college alumni. Just for Su Xing, the elder brother who works as a doctor in the imperial capital, Su Hao has to hold on to Uncle Gua's family's thighs. Before their rebirth, the two brothers did not receive any help from Uncle Gua and Aunt Miao. In Su Hao's view, Guo Chonglin's invitation to invite his father to accompany him was actually a subtle request to take care of Teacher Miao. "It's just that my dad's personality is too straightforward and his emotional intelligence is not enough, which makes him turn a blind eye. But being awakened by the younger son is related to the future of the eldest son, so Principal Su dare not hesitate. Only a middle level, or at most a deputy level, is proposed, which is entirely up to the president the final say. This matter is neither troublesome nor against regulations, so old Su has decided in his heart to do as his son said. Moreover, with Teacher Miao's qualifications, being a middle-level person is enough." The next day, Principal Su went to the school to complete the relevant procedures and rode his bicycle to report to the Education Bureau. At around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Principal Su returned home drunk. Seeing his little son lying on the cool mat under the shade of a tree, Principal Su smiled and said, How, everything is done. I invited the Education Bureau to a table at noon, and I called Uncle Gua to accompany us. Su Hao sat up and nodded with a smile, saying, Okay, thank you very much, Dad. Principal Su shook his head with a smile and said, What are you thanking? It's your Uncle Gua who thanks me. You don't know, your Uncle Gua keeps thanking me and even has to pay the bill. This is business, how can I make him pay? Su Hao smiled and said, Dad, didn't you mention anything about his classmate? Cut, you stinky kid is foolish to be a dad. Just as he helped someone with something, he turned around and begged someone else. Dad's mouth is very strict, and I never bit anyone during the Cultural Revolution. Principal Su looked at his son disdainfully and said proudly. Su Hao is well aware that his father is straightforward and righteous. During the Cultural Revolution, my father not only did not report and expose those old leaders, but also tried to protect them. There are no fewer than 5 veteran cadres protected by him alone. One of the sons became the deputy county magistrate a few years later. Just because my dad rarely walks around with others, the deputy county mayor is only superficially friendly to him. When you have time, why not take a walk with the big brother who is still working as the township secretary below? Su Hao, who had already put on his slippers, took the car from his father's hand and said, Dad, take a break here. I happen to be riding a bike to play with my classmates, so I won't be at home for dinner. Riding the bike, Su Hao felt happy. As long as we firmly grasp the relationship with Teacher Miao, our future prospects should be relatively bright. Since Wang Huaqing was able to promote his cousin and husband on an exceptional basis, it indicates that Wang Huaqing is not someone who does not care about human relationships. In the next year, my job is to get closer to Teacher Miao's family, even like real relatives. As long as one's own conditions are strong enough, Teacher Miao only needs to say 1 or 2 good words, and be promoted to a minor subject 2 years later. It is estimated that the problem will not be significant. Moreover, with the relationship between Uncle Gua and the future medical authority Wang Yulin, it will also be of great help to Big Brother Su Xing's future. It can be said that as long as we can get closer to Teacher Miao and his wife, no matter how much effort we put in, it is worth it. It is absolutely not acceptable to just walk around and say beautiful things with just one empty mouth. In this era, salaries were generally low, and even if Mr. Miao and his wife were working, they wouldn't have much wealth after raising 2 children who were going to college and middle school. Even those who often give away rice, noodles, grains, and oil in the future can still gain their favor. Of course, our own conditions are not as good as Teacher Miao's, and we cannot move things from home to outside. Moreover, Su Hao admitted that he was not the kind of person who gave mantu to others even though he was not full. Money must be earned. Only the money earned by oneself can be spent without psychological burden. After discovering his rebirth, Su Hao began to contemplate a big plan to make money. After all, only by solidifying the economic foundation can the height of the superstructure be elevated. Chapter 8. Money-Making Plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the morning, Su Hao once walked to the county town to find his well-connected classmate Lu Digang, and said that he wanted to gather a few classmates to do some small business together and earn some money. After listening to Su Hao's plan, Lu Digang was overjoyed and patted his chest to ensure that there was absolutely no problem. However, now Su Hao is going to Su Hua'an's house. As soon as he entered the yard, Su Hao saw Mr. Su Hua'an and the 3 others talking under the shade of a tree. Uncle, brother, you're all here, Su Hao greeted with a smile as he set up his bicycle. Hao, come and sit down quickly. Hua'an, go cut a watermelon, Su Changhe greeted with a smile. Su Hao quickly waved his hand and said, Hua'an, don't cut it. I just ate it at home and my stomach is still bulging. Later, Su Hao smiled and asked, Big brother, did you just come back? Su Huaping nodded with a smile and said, I haven't been home for over 2 months. Let's take advantage of the county meeting and go home and take a look. How, haven't we seen each other for almost 2 years? Su Hao sat down next to him and replied, you're too busy. Every time I come to see my uncle and aunt, you're not here. Well, Hongqiu town is too far from home. I was living and eating in the town at that time, and it's rare for me to come back. By the way, I heard from Hua'an that you think of our town. Huaping asked. Su Hao nodded and said, yes. Big brother, as you know, the Industrial Bureau is a unit that waits to die for nothing. I'm still young and want to learn more and do something. Huaping looked relieved and patted Su Hao's shoulder repeatedly, saying with a smile, okay. Since you really want to work hard and make progress, I'll leave the rest to my brother. Brother, I haven't congratulated you yet. Congratulations to Big Brother for his promotion. I still need Big Brother to take care of me in the future. Su Hao looked sincere. Su Huaping nodded heavily and said, Hao, don't worry. Although we are not relatives, we have had a good relationship since our father's generation, and we are actually similar to our own brothers. I won't say anything else. Hao, you can rest assured. It's all thanks to your father that I became a civil teacher. Our family has always been grateful, said Su Changhe affectionately. Uncle, my dad didn't do much, mainly because you are completely qualified, Su Hao said humbly. Hao, I have been in the government for several years and I still don't understand the tricks behind it. There are many qualified people, and there are a few who can become permanent. However, there are still many who can become permanent. My family has nothing to do with it. If it weren't for my uncle, my father wouldn't have been able to become permanent. You know, my family had very poor conditions at that time, and if it weren't for my father becoming permanent, I wouldn't have been able to go to high school. Su Huaping smiled bitterly. Yes, rat, our family has always been thinking of uncle's love, Hua'an said, even his eyes slightly red. Su Hao patted Hua'an's hand and said with a smile, looking ahead, both of our families are noticeably better now, and life will definitely be better than many people in the future. By the way, I came to discuss something with you, and coincidentally, uncle and big brother are also here. Can you help me come up with an idea? Seeing Huaping nodding, Su Hao said, when I was studying in Chang'an, I saw that ice cubes sold better than ice cream, so I decided to make ice packs and make some money. Subsequently, Su Hao explained what an ice bag is and explained how to make an ice bag with the simplest equipment and the least amount of money. Hao's brain is just smart. With a few cents of capital, selling 3 or 4 cents, and several times the profit, this business is simply trying to grab money. I think it will do, Su Changhe said after listening. What a huge profit. You are a brain jerk, truly ranking second in the county in the college entrance examination. How much do you estimate to invest at least, asked Huaping. I have roughly understood that a large freezer costs around 5,000 yuan, but if you can buy old ones, it may only cost 1,000. A small handmade filling machine costs over 3,000 yuan. You also need to buy some packaging bags, saccharin, a tricycle, etc., which will cost around 10,000 to 12,000 yuan, Su Hao replied. Do you have so much money at home? Hua'an asked in surprise. My family is still cheating, I estimate that I can only come up with 500 yuan at most, Su Hao said with a bitter smile and shook his head. Hao, since you dare to propose this idea, you must have a more comprehensive plan. Tell your brother about it, Huaping said calmly. Brother, this is my plan. We don't have money, but many of our classmates have money at home. I plan to adopt a fundraising approach, with several classmates working together. Su Hao explained. Su Huaping nodded and said, this is actually a good method. However, choosing a partner in a business partnership is very important. Don't let your classmates become enemies in the future. You must first be a villain and then a gentleman. Everything comes first. Su Hao nodded and said, I have considered the candidate. Not only can I afford to pay, but I cannot be someone who is petty. Lu Digang used to live in a middle school in the suburbs, but it was also called Agricultural Machinery War at that time. He was my good friend from scratch to high school. His parents are both leaders, just 2 siblings, and their family must be wealthy. There is also Zhang Weiping, who has been working at the County Administration for Industry and Commerce for 4 years. His old man is the party secretary of Qingguan Town and a standing committee member of the county committee. Fan Jinxiang graduated from a teacher's college and has been working at the Education Bureau for a year. His parents are both in banks and are still leaders. Ma Changqing works at the Qingguan Town Police Station, and his father is the secretary of the fertilizer factory. I'm going to ask them to pay, Hua'an and I will contribute, and then I will come up with a place. They each hold 1 share, while Hua'an and I hold a total of 1 share. Hua Ping patted Su Hao's shoulder heavily and sighed, hey, your dad took care of my dad back then. You had a good business and even thought about Hua'an. I don't know how to negotiate with you as a brother. I can't take advantage of you anymore. In this way, I'll give you 2,000 yuan, with Hua'an taking over 1 share, for a total of 6 shares. You'll be responsible for coming up with ideas, taking care of places, and managing everything. Also, Hua'an has nothing to do at home and often helps out without any salary. When Su Hao and Su Hua'an rode their bikes to Lu Digang's house, Su Hao saw him playing mahjong with 3 other classmates. Ha, Xiaoanzi the mouse is here. Sit down first, it will be over soon. Lu Digang, who was facing the door, called out. The other 3 people also turned their heads to look. Damn it, what else are you playing? Business matters. Fan Jinxiang, who was sitting at Lu Digang, was about to play cards. He turned his head and immediately pushed the mahjong in his hand, standing up. Sleeping in a slot, truly a QJ offender. I'm really not good at Nima, I'll immediately touch myself, Lu Digang shouted angrily. Even a strong offender is stronger than you think you are, at least you are brave, like a man. Ma Changqing also pushed the card in front of the door to the middle, smiling and blinking at Lu Digang. Self-touch is more cost-effective, hygienic, casual, and safer, Lu Digang responded with a cheap smile. Damn it, if you 2 bastards say that again, I'm in a hurry. Fan Jinxiang's eyes widened angrily. At this moment, Zhang Weiping, who was facing away from the door, stood up with a smile, shook his head, pursed his lips, and reached out to pat Su Hao and Su Hua'an's shoulders. Little mouse, little Anzi, you 2 come back and don't come to play with me, he said. I just came back the day before yesterday, Su Hao apologized with a smile. Chapter 9. Auspicious Beginning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sit, I'll go cut a watermelon. The 3 of you tidy up the table, mouse. Please explain the plan in detail again. Lu De just called out and walked towards the kitchen. More than 10 minutes later, after repeated consultations and calculations, several people decided to work together. Adding Su Hua'an, each person contributes 2,000, each holding 1 share. Su Hao is in charge of the overall situation, with people coming from different places and occupying a share. A few people don't receive wages, so they go to help when they have time. Those hired to work will receive a daily salary of 5 yuan. On July 15, after several days of intensive preparation, the first batch of snow-capped ice cubes was officially produced. Thanks to the strong support of all shareholders, we sold and borrowed a total of 4 large freezers, 2 of which were borrowed by Ma Changqing from the cafeteria of the fertilizer plant, and 1 was borrowed by Fan Jinxiang from the cafeteria of the Education Bureau. However, it seems that Ma Changqing's loan does not need to be repaid. As for the 3-wheeled pedals for transporting goods, both of them are borrowed. Lu Digang bought 1, and Zhang Weiping bought 1. If it weren't for the large size of Su Hao's old house, which has 5 large tiled houses and 3 side rooms, these production equipment wouldn't be able to be arranged. Because the 4 large pots of boiling water alone occupy 2 rooms early in the morning, Su Hao and Su Hua'an each rode a tricycle loaded with snow and ice, followed by 2 other classmates, and began delivering goods to various shops in the county town. Each insulated box in a 3-wheeled vehicle contains around 400 pieces of ice. On the first morning, Su Hao and Su Hua'an each made 3 trips before sending out all the ice cubes. These shops were all agreed upon in advance by Lu Digang and his 4 companions. Delivery on the first day, settlement on the second day based on remaining status. In the afternoon, Su Hao found a shop that made billboards and expedited the production of over 60 small brands. The next morning, delivery continued. On top of the insulated box, there are also a bunch of small billboards. However, there were no more classmates following at this time. Those 4 gentlemen are not hard-working people at all. At 4 p.m., Su Hao and Su Hua'an, who were busy at the old house, arrived with Lu Digang, Zhang Weiping, Ma Chongqing, and Fan Jinxiang. "Mouse, what's going on? Have you sold them all?" Ma Chongqing asked urgently. "Hee, guess what?" Su Hao smiled mysteriously. I guess something, speak quickly," Ma Chongqing urged with a constipated expression on her face. "You see you're in a hurry, it's all here. What's the rush?" Fan Jinxiang looked contemptuous and then shouted to Hua'an, "Xiao Anzi, cut me a watermelon." Su Hao took out a small notebook from the drawer and spread it on the table, reciting, "Yesterday, a total of 2,480 ice cubes were delivered to 48 different stores. Today, when delivering the goods, a total of 2,357 ice cubes were settled, with 40 cents per bag, totaling 942.8 yuan. After deducting labor, electricity, and material costs, we made approximately 710 yuan. Damn it, this is too profitable, right?" exclaimed Fan Jinxiang in surprise. "Is it for nothing to attend a prestigious university? Besides, I stayed in a big city for 4 years." Zhang Weiping looked as if he had anticipated it. "Huh, the little mouse's brain is so effective, my brother admires it." Lu Digang laughed heartily. "Xiao Gongzi, who are you pretending to be? We are from the same month, and I was about 10 days earlier than you." Su Hao glared at Lu Digang. "Oh, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you mention that I was born almost a year earlier than you?" Lu Digang pursed his lips with disdain. "You two will be poor when you meet, eat quickly, otherwise the watermelon will be eaten by the 3 of them." Hua'an pointed to the table. "Sleeping trough, you 3 are dogs, eating so fast." Lu Digang looked at it and quickly stepped forward, grabbing a watermelon with one hand and biting it fiercely. After eating a piece of watermelon, Su Hao continued to introduce, "Because this ice cube is still a new thing that everyone has never heard of before, I estimate that as long as more people know about it, the demand will be even greater in the future. So yesterday afternoon, I spent 380 yuan to find someone to make 67 small billboards. As long as it's for our products, we will give away a small brand. Selling so much on the first day, according to your guess, the volume sold today is even larger. Can we afford it?" Ma Chongqing asked. Su Hao said, "After the settlement tomorrow morning, we will have more confidence in our hearts. If there is a high demand, we can add refrigerators, large pots, and 3 rounds to increase production. Anyway, it's easy to find workers, and there are enough houses in my house." "Okay, Mouse, just let us know what you need us to do," Lu Digang said. Su Hao nodded and said, "Relying solely on me and Hua'an to deliver may not be enough time. If you are not afraid of the heat or fatigue, you can help with the delivery. Of course, if you are not afraid of spending money, I can hire someone specifically to deliver. But you need someone to follow and collect the money. So, for now, let's help with delivery and wait until we earn enough capital before hiring workers," said Fan Jinxiang. Yes, earning money like this, what are you afraid of if you suffer some losses and fatigue? Zhang Weiping nodded in agreement. Very good, I'll always listen to the mouse's arrangements. But since it started well today, shouldn't we celebrate for the whole 2 drinks? Ma Chongqing smiled. Yes, it's time to celebrate. Don't go home until you're drunk, Lu Digang and the others agreed. Okay, public funds for consumption. Su Hao agreed with a smile as he looked at the excitement of the 3 of them. However, he sighed in his heart that these wealthy young masters were just big hands and feet. At 7 p.m., 6 people arrived at the Spring Breeze barbecue restaurant next to the Central Park in the county town. After ordering skewers and beer, they began to eat and drink at the table on the sidewalk outside the shop. Lu Digang, you're back. Suddenly, a young woman's voice rang in her ear. Yang Hui, Li Xian, come over and have some food, Lu Digang called out. Su Hao turned his head in the direction of the sound and quickly stood up. Just 2 steps away on the road, there are 2 young, beautiful, and slender women standing. The taller one is called Yang Hui, and the shorter one is called Li Xian. They are all former classmates. It was Li Xian who spoke just now. It is said that she is very interested in Lu Digang. A few people said one after another, you 2 come and sit down, we've just started. In the 1970s and 1980s, Linhe County was so small, with only 1 or 2 good primary schools and only 1 or 2 good high schools. Everyone was classmates at different times. Only Ma Chongqing came to Linhe County in high school because his father had retired from the military, and he was not familiar with 2 beautiful women who went to humanities after their sophomore year. Li Xian naturally wanted to come and sit down, but Yang Hui next to her felt embarrassed when she saw Su Hao and said, no, we've had it, we just came out for a walk. Li Xian hesitated immediately. Su Hao smiled and said, we're all old classmates. It's rare to see each other. Why don't you come over and have a chat? It's okay to just chat, after all, it might be rare to see each other in the future. Li Xian, who was already interested in Lu Digang, naturally didn't want to miss this rare opportunity. She grabbed Yang Hui, who was still hesitating, and said, okay, let's sit down and chat. After all, everyone has graduated, and I don't know where they have been assigned. Chapter 10. Classmate Relationships. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Regarding the matter of Su Hao and Yang Hui, Su Hao's good friends Lu Digang and Su Hua'an naturally knew, and they quickly brought chairs from the side and placed them next to Su Hao. Then put on the bowls and chopsticks. As Yang Hui's best friend, Li Xian was also aware of her past relationship with her beloved Prince Charming Su Hao, so she pushed Yang Hui towards Su Hao. They just don't know yet that there is no possibility of Su Hao and Yang Hui being together again. Su Hao quickly shouted, wait, this chair is not properly placed. After speaking, Su Hao personally arranged the 2 chairs next to Lu Digang. Li Xian was very intelligent and seemed to have noticed something, so she sat next to Lu Digang reluctantly. Li Xian, which unit have you been assigned to? Su Hao smiled and looked at Li Xian, asking. After returning home, he was busy with this small business all day and was not clear about the distribution of those graduating students this year. The municipal procuratorate, Li Xian, who graduated from Hejiang University with a major in law, answered with a smile. Cow, good unit. Everyone expressed congratulations. Su Hao, I heard you went back to our county. Li Xian asked. Su Hao smiled faintly and replied, yes, at first it was said that I was assigned to the Industrial Bureau. I don't want to work in that kind of idle class, so I have to go to the countryside. Ah, you're going to the countryside, kid. You don't know, do you? Rat, if you want to figure it out, it's difficult for others to come up, but you take the initiative to go to the countryside. Lu Digang exclaimed in surprise. Little mouse, when you go to the countryside, it may not even be easy to find a wife, even though you look very handsome, Zhang Weiping said solemnly. Su Hao chuckled and said, I have decided not to consider getting married before the age of 20.7 or 8. And I am only 21 years old this year, and there are still so many years left. Lu Digang guessed from Su Hao's move of placing chairs just now that there was no match between Su Hao and Yang Hui. Now that he heard Su Hao say this, he was even more certain of his speculation. He chuckled and said, Little mouse, that's the right way to think. It's even more natural to be alone. Su Hua'an shook his head and said, Little mouse, fortunately you have brother Su Xing above you. Otherwise, uncle and aunt would definitely not let you get married so late. Ma Changqing's face showed a mysterious smile and said, Mouse, don't listen to Wei Ping's nonsense. You are so handsome and a college student. You are definitely very popular among young girls and daughter.in.law in the countryside. Get lost, it seems that you are very popular with young girls and daughter.in.law at the rural police station. But you can't teach the little mouse to be bad, Wei Ping scolded with a smile. Su Hao didn't ramble with these few anymore. Instead, he stood up and picked up 4 skewers of grilled meat and placed them on Yang Hui and Li Xian's plates, asking, Would you like to have some skewers and beer first? Li Xian and Yang Hui both smiled and waved their hands, and Li Xian said, I won't eat anymore. I've really eaten before. We never drink alcohol. Zhang Weiping smiled at Li Xian and said, Li Xian, from your procuratorate, both men and women can drink quite well. Li Xian looked surprised and said, Really? Zhang Weiping solemnly said, Truly, whether it's from the county or the city, I've had a drink with them. As long as it's served, both men and women can enjoy it. Okay, I'll try the water today, Li Xian said with a smile. Lu Digang, who was sitting next to Li Xian, quickly filled Li Xian's glass with beer and said to Yang Hui, can I also pour you a glass? Yang Hui hesitated for a moment before nodding and saying, okay. Later, Zhang Weiping raised his glass and said, Welcome to the 2 beautiful women. Let's all come together and have one. The 2 beautiful women are welcome. Fan Jinxiang, sitting next to Su Hao, put down his cup, looked at Su Hao and asked, Mouse, I don't know what you think. When you go back to your hometown, you have given up half of what you learned. Now you go to the countryside again, and what you learned in the past 4 years is totally discarded. Su Hao smiled and said, if it comes to professional knowledge, it is indeed giving up. But in university, the most important thing is to learn how to analyze and solve problems. As long as you master this, everything you do is the same. Fan Jinxiang shook his head and said, Anyway, it's a pity. You're the 2nd highest ranked student in the county's college entrance examination, and you're studying at West China University of Technology. Su Hao shook his head lightly and said with a smile, It's not a big pity. I heard last year there was a big guy who was sent down to the town. He's even more impressive. Mouse, I know that person's name is Du Xiaoguang. He's in our Liji town and he's on a temporary job in the province. By mid-next month, the probationary period will end and he'll be at the deputy department level. It's estimated that he'll be back in the province by then, Ma Changqing said. Temporary cadres are indeed different. After a year of probation, they are at the deputy department level, which is amazing, Fan Jinxiang shook his head and sighed. That's right, they came from a top-tier university and were sent from the province, which is not something we can compare with, said Su Hao. Yang Hui also looked at Su Hao through the middle of Su Hua'an and asked softly, Are you really going to the countryside? Su Hao looked into Yang Hui's eyes and felt a hint of apology in her eyes. He smiled and said to the kind-hearted girl, Actually, I plan to work as a small clerk in Hongqiu town as soon as I came back. In my opinion, Hongqiu town is the poorest and most difficult place in our county, but it is also the place where we can showcase our talents. Mouse, if you can really endure hardship, going to the countryside will definitely lead to a faster rise. Of course, you also need someone. Zhang Weiping pointed up with his food finger. Su Hao knew that Zhang Weiping's father was the secretary of Qingguan Town and a standing committee member of the county party committee, and his words were undoubtedly very reasonable. Yang Hui, your mother is from the organization department. Can you help me ask if a famous university student like Mouse who voluntarily requests to work in a township can also be given a deputy department level? Lu Digang looked at Yang Hui and asked. Su Hao gave Lu Digang a fierce glare and said, "Don't talk nonsense, this matter may not be decided by the county." Su Hao knew that Lu Digang was intentional. Yang Hui shook her head and responded with a smile, "I don't know either. Mom never tells us about the company." "Come on, let's have a rare gathering with our classmates, drinking," Ma Chongqing shouted. As everyone put down their glasses, Li Xian said, "To be honest, I still feel sorry for Su Hao. You are so smart. If you continue to work in your field, you may become a scientist in the future." Su Hao smiled and shook his head, saying, "Smart? I never thought so. When we were in elementary and middle school, you, Li Xian, as well as Yang Hui and Lu Digang, were not as good as me in terms of grades. I remember Su Hua'an and I were always around the top 10 in our class. I'm different from you. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't go any further." "You were too young and playful at that time," Su Hua'an pouted. "Yes, mice were always younger than us. They were really playful back then. From playing yo-yo and throwing paper chickens, to later playing table tennis, basketball, and football, he played very well. I've known mice since we were naked," Lu Digang chuckled.